Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. Now, following the success in delivering groceries in less than 10 minutes, BlinkIt has now introduced a 10-minute ambulance booking service. It is now offering rapid doorstep access to emergency medical assistance. This service has launched for residents of Gurgaon in its pilot program. The company has launched 5 ambulances, but they are looking for expansion opportunities in other cities as well. The ambulances are equipped with essential life-saving equipment, including oxygen cylinders, automated external defibrillators, stretchers, monitor, suction machines, and essential emergency medicines and injections as well. The staff on board include a paramedic, an assistant, and a trained driver. The CEO of BlinkIt, Albinder Dhinsa, has informed that the profit is not the goal here and that the company will operate the service at an affordable cost for customers. Now, a quick commerce platform jumping into ambulance services has highlighted the stark reality of the state of ambulance availability in the country. Such vehicles are often difficult to obtain during critical medical needs, with the section of the population also priced out owing to the high upfront costs at times. Speaking of service delivery, the larger question arises is pertaining to who has the responsibility to deliver these services. Is it the responsibility of the government, or should the private sector foray into it as well? We have seen in the past considerable advancements in technology over the last few decades. For instance, we have witnessed a swift jump from landline phones to mobiles via telecom services being provided, and several other of these complete overhaul in the way services are provided to the countrymen, right from the time of us having these public sector banks and privatization that happened, rapid development. We take a look at privatization, and now we are at the position where globalization is the need of the hour. It already is continuing, and therefore the question about how can public sector can collaborate with private players. This time around we have the example of BlinkIt, which is a quick commerce company that has tied itself with other hospitals and clinics that provide this service of ambulances in less than 10 minutes. I'm going to start my conversation. Padma Shri Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, who is the chairman of the Nephron Clinic, on the telecast with me. Dr. Bagai, how much of a game changer it is going to be when people are getting access to ambulances during those very crucial hours that are important to save the life of a patient, and that will just take you about 8 to 10 minutes for the ambulance to arrive at your doorstep?
Good evening. So there are two parts to this discussion. So the first part is to lay out that there is no question, there is no ambiguity in the fact that the ambulances are in short number pan-India, and the ambulances take a greater length of time to reach than what is ideally required for a variety of reasons. Lack of penetration of ambulance services. Transport medicine in India is still very much in its infancy. Ambulances are in short supply even in major large corporate hospitals, and of course the traffic and the jams and the chaos of a critical care ambulance or a basic care ambulance reaching a critical patient. The nuances are as follows. Healthcare cannot be equated to groceries. Over-promising and under-delivering will be a very, very risky path to follow for any e-platform or any company. And any misleading information to promise something which is then not delivered or delivered wrongly would be an even bigger error. So let me explain. 10 minutes is a virtually illogical time. It's something which looks very attractive, and I think this is a misleading advertisement. Point number 2, affordable cost is very ambiguous. We all know what the cost of ambulances are to procure. An advanced life care ambulance or even a basic life care ambulance fully equipped costs more than 12 to 14 lakhs. With regards to equipment, there is no mention. They have mentioned that there will be a defibrillator, suctioning, monitors, and so on. But there is no mention on what the maintenance of these very, very sensitive equipment is going to be. Who's going to undertake the AMC? Where does the responsibility lie? Where is the accountability? What happens if the equipment malfunctions? What happens if the handling of the equipment is not appropriate during transport? What's the legality of it? The devil lies in the detail.
Right, right.
If
But
a
also
patient,
also the question about, you know, when there is collaboration being made with these private hospitals and clinics that are providing the ambulance service, what this quick commerce platform is doing is that it is providing you the platform where you can book an ambulance. The responsibility of providing those ambulances lies with the hospitals that are in the vicinity.
15 seconds. They are saying that they are going to provide manpower, which will include paramedics, assistants, and a trained driver. That's absolutely ridiculous. There is no mention of a proper doctor who's trained to manage critical care patients. Which hospital are they going to tie up with? Why go through a circuit route when most patients will tend to call up an ambulance number and get the ambulance directly? How is
because it takes about 30
be...
minutes for the ambulance to arrive at your place, and here it is a contention being made by this quick commerce platform, by BlinkIt, that listen, we'll provide you those ambulances in less than 10 minutes. When you have your groceries delivered in less than 10 minutes, why is there a problem when you require these emergency services, whether it is a firefighter, fire engines, or for that matter, ambulance services in this case?
Scooter delivering groceries is not the same as a critical care patient being shifted and transported. That's my take. So we should tread cautiously.
Okay. I also have with me Dr. Sharat Kohli. Dr. Kohli, the feasibility of this program that has been launched on a private, on a pilot basis by BlinkIt. Now, there is the list of these 5 hospitals that has been mentioned on the BlinkIt app, which BlinkIt is collaborating with in providing the ambulance services. Now, this has been rolled out on certain parts of Gurgaon only. They intend to increase this service, expand this service to the rest of the Delhi NCR region and then to other parts of the country as well. Are there loopholes in this case, in this program, in this idea that has been floated and now implemented, or do you think when there are private players involved in services such as these, where lives of people matter, higher the competition, better the service provided?
Good afternoon, Megha, or rather good evening, and good evening to my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. I think where I'm sitting right now, coincidentally, I'm sitting just about a couple of kilometers away from the BlinkIt Zomato office, and I'm also sitting in the vicinity of the 5 hospitals which they have listed. I'm sitting very much there at this point. So let me just decode this for you, where this idea came from. The traditional ambulance service, here are the problems. Expensive, late in reaching, not fully equipped, not properly maintained, absence of paramedics and doctors many a times, and traffic in reaching, making the patient reach. So I think identifying these problems, this is where BlinkIt came from. Then let us try and hit these problems. So the way this will work is, I'll also address to Dr. Bagai is a very senior, he's a Padam Shri, so obviously his concerns are very, very genuine, and they are more tilted towards the patients, rather than a business idea. Let's look at the solution. So what BlinkIt Zomato supposedly would be doing is, it will be positioning and making sure that ambulance within 10 minutes are available. So these would be the areas where they would anticipate the traffic, that how much traffic can be there in the peak hours, and where can we position the ambulance geographically, in which areas, so that it can reach in 10 minutes. When they say 10 minutes, and in ambulance, it's not a banana or a milk or a yogurt being delivered to your place. It has to be 10 minutes, because after all, the patient will start counting the time from the point that has been ordered. His life and death would be at stake. So there has to be, the time is going to be of essence. That's one. So they're going to position the ambulance, which is why, Megha, they have done it on pilot basis in Gurgaon, and especially around the golf course road, where the traffic moves smoothly and there are underpasses, there are no traffic signals, there are traffic jams. I don't say there are no traffic jams, but they are very rare and exceptional circumstances. I think the main problem which BlinkIt would face is in exceptional cases when there is excessive rain, or there is a vehicle breakdown, or there is an extraordinary traffic disruption because of any other reason. Other than that, they have positioned, the ambulance will be positioned in that manner. As far as the paramedics' presence and maintenance of the ambulance are concerned, as far as the facilities on the ambulance are concerned, the AMCs are concerned, I am 100% sure, although I'm neither a stakeholder in Zomato, BlinkIt, nor do I favor these companies, but as a business idea, they have already prepared themselves that they will only provide service when all these doubts have been taken care of. I think that will be one aspect, which is why if on pilot basis this works, if you remember, Zomato some time ago had started a green t-shirt service. This was for the vegetarians. Now, if we remember the whole incident, that was withdrawn because every time you ordered a green t-shirt and your food coming, this was vegetarian food, but a lot of people objected. There were a lot of reservations and it was withdrawn. So when a thing is done on pilot basis, Megha, if it is successful, only if the feedback is good, it will be expanded to other cities. Otherwise, they will abandon. They are under no obligation or commitment to anybody to fulfill this service and expand this service. But having said that, the role of private sector, Megha, just allow me to make one last comment. The role of private sector in all the services which you mentioned in your opening remark, whether it is mobile phone, banking, anything, wherever private sector has entered, we have seen improvisation of services as compared to, in inverted commas, sarkari way of working. So it has helped, and I'm sure this is also going to help. Let's wait for the pilot to succeed, and then we'll be in a better position to comment on the reservations expressed by Dr. Bagai.
Mithali, let's hear it from you as well. And when you say private sector push, and we have seen privatization that has helped our country grow leaps and bounds. The economy that at one point of time was we were called the laggard nations of the world, and we have transformed it to a position where we are the single largest, fastest growing economy of the world. In a situation such as this, and if you make the comparisons to United States of America and the healthcare that is provided, you get ambulance services, you get fire engines within a very short span of time. Question then arises is, why cannot Indians have the same kind of service?
Thanks, Megha, for bringing me into the conversation, and a big thanks to Dr. Bagai and Dr. Kohli for laying out their perspectives. Actually, Megha, I would beg to differ in terms of the response time of ambulances altogether in the Western economies. So my father-in-law actually is he's in the National Health Service in the UK, and he himself had a stroke about 2 years ago, and it took almost 25 minutes for the ambulance to reach him, despite the fact that he is a doctor in the United Kingdom. So, and this is a real life incident I'm sharing, on national television, because I want to actually share with the viewers that this impression that we have that, in Western economies, you have better healthcare or that you have faster service, that is not true. Today, if we go to any other Western country and we have to order groceries, or if we have to order anything online, even medicine, here we have so many other companies like Apollo, for example, which is delivering medicines in 30 to 35 minutes to your home through their app. And this is unheard of in the Western economies. So I think India today is a global leader when it comes to app-based services, when it comes to app-based grocery delivery, when it comes to app-based food delivery. And the fact that these companies are thinking about other services, that they are thinking about ambulance, which is a necessary life-saving service, where they can use the logistics infrastructure that they've set up, where they can use the data infrastructure that they've set up, using predictive and real-time data analytics, they can actually decide where, as Dr. Kohli was saying, where that ambulance should be parked. Of course, in this circumstance, defining the radius of that service delivery and being transparent with the customer becomes very important, because if your grocery is delayed by 10 minutes, it's okay. But if your ambulance is delayed by 10 minutes, it's not okay. And as Dr. Bagai said, the quality of the service will speak for itself. Tomorrow, you and I will be able to give it a rating. We'll be able to say 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars. And if that rating keeps on falling, we will know that that service is not sustainable.
Okay. Also the fact that it brings together a bunch of hospitals and clinics and ambulance service providers. So it is not actually providing a service on its own. It is not creating any service. It is an aggregator. So while there may be ambulance services in clinics and hospitals that may be spread across the region, but the fact that you have brought them together and there is an SOS call that is being sent out to those hospitals, and when there is an availability of an ambulance, this is in contrast to no communication happening between the hospitals when an ambulance is provided. That's how it makes it seamless when having clear communication and sending out a message that amongst all these hospitals or all these clinics, there is a requirement for an ambulance service, and immediately a response is sought and an ambulance is then shunted to that place where the SOS call has been called. Padmashri, Sanjeev Bagai, now here is the problem, and you raised that very rightly, that how do we ensure that there are proper medics that are available on the ambulance, there is proper services, there is proper equipment. Do you think in the long term these issues can be resolved, and can there be reliance on these hospitals that already have credibility? These hospitals are already running, they have their ambulances, so there is credibility over there. Do you think that issue could be resolved with the hospitals that are being brought together to work for this app?
I have 3 quick points. One, it's not just the 10 minutes. You have the golden 45 minutes to 1 hour to save even in most critical life-threatening emergencies. So if you are saying 10 minutes coming and then how many minutes to the hospital, that's first point. Point number 2 is the manpower. Who's going to be actually managing the patient in that critical first 5 to 10 minutes? What is available so far information on social media and the net, they have not mentioned the type of trained doctors. Now, if it's going to come from the hospitals, yes, the hospitals have trained doctors. They have advanced life care in which if it's a cardiac emergency, a resident doctor of a cardiology department, for example, would be accompanying the patient and so on. Third is, where is the legality? What happens supposing a patient dies at 11th or the 12th or the 14th minute? What happens if the patient dies during transport? So I think these are the issues which are real issues which will come up. The last thing which I want is any program, of even if it's a pilot study or a pilot project starting, which gets stuck in non-detailed legality. So I think we need to be cautious, we need to be careful. We cannot equate this to any other home delivery product. I think managing critical patients is perhaps the need of the hour in India. India per se has an acute dearth of ambulances. So let me explain why. All over India, there are only 2,400 advanced life care ambulances, 17,200 basic life care ambulances for a population which is reaching 1.45 billion. Delhi NCR itself has a shortage of ambulances. So when the product itself is short, yes, rationalizing its use is important, but we can't invent ambulances overnight. It's extremely expensive. A large 500-bed hospital has a mere 5 to 7 ambulances at the best of time which are functional.
Okay, yeah, that's a massive problem, and that gap needs to be fulfilled. The supply needs to be provided as per the demand. But Dr. Sharad Kohli, don't you think today if I needed an ambulance and somebody was sick and there was urgent need for him to be taken to the hospital, today I will not have to call 5 hospitals or 5 ambulance service providers, but just get on to BlinkIt, know that my SOS message will be sent out to perhaps 10 or 15 or 20 of those ambulance services or clinics or hospitals which are in the vicinity, and just automatically take my request and send me an ambulance.
Well, absolutely. That's the whole idea of the service, Megha, to make sure that you have an ambulance. Dr. Bagai raised a very interesting point that it is 10 minutes is what? 10 minutes is for the ambulance to reach the patient. Now, which hospital the patient is supposed to be going? If it's a cardiology problem, probably you will be going to a cardiology specialized hospital. If it's an accident, he'll probably be going to a trauma center or something. So this all depends on the nature of emergency which the patient is facing. We need to keep this in mind. And also, Megha, one thing which is not very clear is that these ambulances, we're talking of dearth of ambulances, and Dr. Bagai gave the data of ambulances, how many ambulances are there for 145 crore people that we are. Well, what still needs to be revealed is, will these ambulances belong to BlinkIt? BlinkIt can afford, by the way, if it is, even if it's 12 to 14 lakhs ambulances. I won't say that BlinkIt cannot afford these ambulances, but it can try, it can run a test run of 5, 7, 10 ambulances and see how it runs. But you're right, basically, they are aggregators. So buying your own scooters or two-wheelers is a different story. But buying ambulances is a different story altogether. So if BlinkIt goes on to buy these ambulances or lease these ambulances, then I'm sure it will ensure that there are medics and paramedics and trained people on the ambulance. In fact, the condition of ambulance will also be better than some of the other ambulances. See, what is the situation now? I think the best way to look at this problem is, what is the situation now? Today, if we need an ambulance, you have to scroll through your phone, or there is an emergency number which you call. There is a chance you will hear a sleepy voice there. I mean, they will not appreciate the emergency you have, and you will probably get an ambulance. You may get it in half an hour, or it may sometimes take hours. We've seen it, it can take up to 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So the situation is no good today. So I personally feel, I look at it from a very practical point of view, Megha. I think anything will happen to better than what we are in today. Because it goes in private hands, and you will still have private ambulances, by the way.
Yeah.
There are private ambulance service who have their let out their phone numbers. You can call them. You get them on Just Dial. You get them on Google. So I think things are only going to get better. Let's not look at it from a very critical or a very I would say negative point of view, because a company like BlinkIt, which is also running Zomato, BlinkIt are the same, and people have been satisfied. Their stock prices have risen. Their valuations have gone up. It is one of the most successful startups as of today. And by the way, it's one of the most valued startups today, because the other one related to education is gone now. So it's right on the top right now.
Yeah.
So they have money with them. They can afford to build an infrastructure separately for ambulances also, apart from being aggregators, which is why I said this is on pilot basis. If it is successful, I won't be surprised. You might see a BlinkIt ambulances running across the city. Well, it may be their own set of ambulances.
You're
BlinkIt
absolutely
is quite
right.
capable of buying that
Yeah.
data.
Yeah. Coming back to you, Mitali Nikore. Now, what's also the highlight of this ambulance services, the pilot project that has been launched, is you get the ambulance at the cost of just a mere 2,000 rupees. And that's an interesting facet as well. Now, I would like to compare the figures of you booking an ambulance. How much does it cost traditionally versus what price offer that has been provided by BlinkIt?
So thanks a lot for bringing me in, Megha, again. I think I want to just comment on one thing which Dr. Bagai was saying, and I'll also talk about the pricing. So one thing which Dr. Bagai was saying was about the lack of ambulance, availability at this point in time, which we see across different cities. I mean, if we don't see a situation in Delhi, NCR itself has such a shortage. Today, I am speaking from Kolkata. Even here, there's a massive shortage. There are different, even the smaller cities, there's a huge shortage in tier 3 and tier 4 towns, right? What is the benefit of this platform is that it helps with demand discovery. See, when Zomato started, a lot of restaurants were already existing, but the entire restaurant industry got a massive fillip because many new restaurants could come up and access a lot of quick demand. They were able to reach their customers faster. The same thing happened with Uber and Ola and all of the other cab service providers. They were able to get market access. We believe that the same thing can happen now with healthcare services, particularly ambulances, where they will be able to reach their customers much faster, and they will be able to understand the demand also better, so as to invest in a fleet. Of course, I don't believe that BlinkIt will ever become the owner of ambulances. I always believe that they will remain an aggregator, and the hospitals will be the ones investing in the ambulances, but they will definitely be able to bring in more and more hospitals into their fleet. Now, on the costing, 2,000 rupees for the ambulance is definitely comparable to the market rates for any of the private, premium private hospitals at this point. However, of course, it is still remaining out of reach for the middle class. Because for a middle class person, even today, they would be able to get a much cheaper ambulance from a government, hospital. But that will, of course, take much more time to reach. So in an emergency, the 2,000 rupees is a premium charge which they have to pay. It is still not a very affordable service.
Okay, all right. I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast and sharing your views on this subject. It's an interesting development that has taken place. We'll keep a close eye on how this service is going to, on a pilot project basis, work for the people, and then if it's going to be expanded, how it is going to bring about a massive change in the way our emergency services provide us their help. On that note, I slip into a short break. Thanks for watching NewsX.